All right, well, good evening and welcome to our Municipal Building Authority special meeting for May 13th, 2014. Let the roll call reflect that all trustees are present. And the first item on our agenda is reports from administration concerning fiscal year 2015 proposed budget.
Lori's been practicing all day for this one.
Once again, the Municipal Building Authority, or MBA, was created as a nonprofit corporation on November 17, 1992, under the authority of both the Utah Nonprofit Corporation and Cooperative Association Act, as well as the Utah Municipal Building Authority Act. The purpose of the MBA is to acquire, improve, or extend one or more projects and to finance their costs on behalf of the city. The total fiscal year 2014-2015 MBA budget is $544,750. This is a $50 reduction from the previous fiscal year, so not a lot of change. The current MBA bond funds have been used for improvements to the municipal building, renovation, grounds around the municipal building, a portion of the construction of the Public Works building, and improvements to the downtown stadium. These bonds are considered lease revenue bonds, and the lease payments are made by the general fund, and in the case of the Public Works portion, the enterprise funds that occupy the portion of that building. This year, the bond payments are $293,750 for the municipal building grounds, that part of the bond, and $240,875 for the stadium bonds. The revenue is provided from lease payments of $534,750 and anticipated interest income of approximately $10,000. And as well as the other documents, this will be made available on the city's website tomorrow morning. And we again would request to set the public hearing for June 3rd, 2014. Any questions on this one? It's pretty straightforward and
Very
not much
straightforward.
change.
I just wanted to ask one question. Are we pretty close to paying off one of these?
You know, I looked up, the one is going to be done in, I believe, and I looked these up. I apologize, I didn't write them down when I put them in, but one was, it goes out, the whole thing goes out till 2026 is when the final one is. Part of the bond is paid before that, and I think 3 more years, but the other one goes out to 2026, actually. So, still a few more years on the one. Any other questions?
Any questions? Johnson.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Ready for some resolution to this?
If there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the proposed budget for fiscal year 2014-15 and set the public hearing for June 3rd, 2014.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Cochner, seconded by Trustee Wicks.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I ask for a clarification, because the motion included adopting the budget, and you're not adopting the budget quite yet.
Adopting the proposed
Tentative budget.
tentative.
The tentative budget.
You're actually just setting a public hearing.
Yeah, well, so you're the motion maker? You can.
Yes, clarification.
We like your thought process, though.
And my second still stands.
Okay. This is a roll call vote. Oh, it is? Okay. This is a voice vote.
It is a voice vote, yes, it is.
Okay. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Time now for public comments. This is an opportunity to address the board regarding your concerns or ideas for the Municipal Building Authority. Please state your name and address clearly for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, comments from Mr. Johnson
Nothing, thank you.
and the trustees.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion Vice Chair Gochner, seconded by Trustee Garner to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. As a reminder, we will have a special council meeting directly after this meeting, followed by a city council work session. Welcome and good evening. We appreciate you being here to the May 13, 2014 City Council special meeting. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present. First, the items on our agenda. The next item on our agenda is common consent items, A and B, budget amendment, both of them. So, do we have a motion?
I will go ahead and make a motion to adopt the two items listed under common consent, setting the public hearing for May 27, 2014 on both items.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Blair, seconded by Councilmember White, to set public hearing on both of these items for May 27th. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item on our agenda is reports from administration concerning the new D School and Community Center. We have Ms. Eller-Smith.
Yes, before we turn the time over to Mr. Ogden, I just wanted to kind of review for you and for the record and your citizens that are out there in TV land what transpired last week. As noted on this week's agenda, this issue on the community center was continued from last week. Last week, the council heard from the administration their proposal to move the Golden Hour Center to the new community center that's being constructed in conjunction with the new D School. You accepted public input at that meeting and heard from several interested citizens, and based on the comments from those citizens, you'd asked for some additional information. So I have been working with Mr. Ogden to get answers to those questions for you, and I provided that information to you yesterday, and Mr. Ogden is going to review that for the record and for those citizens that are here and interested tonight for your further consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, as Janine mentioned, we've got some further information for the record to answer a few questions that have come up and some kind of lingering issues that we thought we'd highlight. Why the decision to move to the Golden Hour Center now, and why must the decision be made quickly? The city's been working with Ogden School District for the past 4 to 5 years on locating the site for the D School. The proposal to relocate the Golden Hour Center came up in a discussion regarding the programming for the community center after the designs were initially presented in November. So we got designs. We didn't know the specifics of what was able to be built and what the school district had thought. And so, we noticed this spacing and the size and started brainstorming on potential users for that facility. And so that's when the issues came up. So since that time, we've had done as much work as we can to try and put forth the plans and work with the administration and the Golden Hours director and department director and things to try and figure out if it can work, how it might work in terms of design elements. And the architect has gone back and forth several times on that, to the point where we felt like we had something that we could present to the public and bring it to the seniors. And those were presented to the seniors as early as we could get them, and that was in March, early March. Had a couple of meetings with them, as we talked about last week. The new markets funding, which is the critical element of the financing for the school, requires that the project be ready to go in August. And so the design and bidding timeline relative to the new markets demands the decision needs to be made no later than May, just to make sure that that timeline is followed. So that's kind of the crunch that we're under. What's the estimated cost to demolish the current facility? We estimate that to be $200,000 and to bring it to a position where it could be, something else could be done there or landscaped or whatever, but to take it down and get the site ready is $200,000. The cost to reclaim the site, if it were to be made as a park, is about $1 a foot, and we estimate 80,000 feet, so $80,000 on that. If the building were to be mothballed and kept in its current condition, our facility people tell us that the systems are old enough that they wouldn't respond well to being shut down completely and then turned on at a later date, maybe years later, several months later, years later. the deterioration and the startup would require a lot of cost, incur a lot of cost, and they said that it would probably be more cost-effective to keep the thing operational kind of at a minimal level, and that's estimated to be $15,000 a year. Can the interior of the new proposed facility be tweaked, the design be changed in moderate ways? And the answer is yes. The footprint probably couldn't be changed. It's kind of expanded to the maximum size that is allowable given the site. And the exterior doors and the entrances and the pathways are probably set, but the interior room sizes and kind of overall movement of some of the walls could certainly be done. But we need to provide the feedback to the architect fairly soon, within the next month or so. Cost to rebuild a new facility. And again, we're using estimates. There are two sources. One of the estimates is the ISIS report that shows kind of a high-level look at what a replacement value might be. That came in at $3.9 million. Using some numbers based on the construction of the school. And again, there may be some economies there based on the overall square footage of the school, et cetera. But we're kind of trying to make our best estimate based on the D school construction and figure that $2.2 million might get us another 12,500 foot building. That's kind of a guess that is based on the estimates for the school. Sound attenuation is an issue that came up. In checking with the architect, the floor systems are built to the same standard as the school, and those are built to a sound attenuating standard. 5.5 inches of concrete with an interstitial for all the mechanical and things, and then an acoustic ceiling. And so they feel that it's going to meet that standard very well, but they said certainly if people have a significant issue with that, they could certainly bring in an acoustic engineer and have it looked at to give a direct reading on that. So he's not opposed to to looking at that in more depth. Initial lease. If the city were to lease the facility, we're looking at probably a 15 to 20-year lease, but it would correspond with the time frame that if the city needed to do any debt service. As we talked last week, there may be some kind of portion of the building that the city would finance that may not be raised through donations. And we're expecting that to be either a 15 or 20-year lease, but our estimates are that 20. The interesting thing is that we'd probably try and negotiate a lease that is kind of a very long-term lease with the ability to get out of the lease at some point after that initial finance phase, if we chose to. Some just kind of further clarification on the new markets.
Can I just ask a question about that, about the leasing?
Uh-huh.
Do you see any problems or advantages to, I mean, we own the community center now, whereas, and we would be leasing it. Do you see any pros or cons that stick out at you?
I think that's something we'd probably want to get into more detail with the school district in regards to assuring that our needs are met in regards to the lease. And they're certainly open to anything that we're bringing to them. So I think and we've discussed internally that keeping the term on the lease, a very long-term lease that benefits us so that we kind of act like an owner. But if other options come up and we choose to vacate, that at some point we'd have the out, that we could do that. So I think at least a long-term lease seems like a good option to us.
Ward, still staying on that subject, you've mentioned the benefit of having a very extended lease with the option of coming out of that lease. In the future, let's say there's a private company that, is very successful in working with recreation centers for, older adults. Mm-hmm. Would we, if that became something that we wanted to look at, we then could get out of the lease and say, this company has a great success record, they want to take over this rec center?
Oh, sure. Yeah, and that's obviously a thing that we don't know what the future holds, but as we look at, and we're going to be doing more studies. And
The only thing that could change that is if they had to bond for any portion of our piece, then they would probably require us as part of the lease to stay there as long as the bond. So if it was a 15-year bond, we probably would be locked in for the 15 years.
yeah, or to negotiate the payment such that the payment's guaranteed.
Would we have the responsibility of the maintenance and operation of the building under that lease?
Maintenance and operation is, the routine maintenance and operation is included within the context of the lease. There would be common area maintenance charges that would accrue in addition. Those are very long-term things, but that's, as if we were any tenant in a facility like that.
So cleaning or painting in the building would be part?
The minor stuff would just be included in the lease, and the upkeep and repair and the routine maintenance.
That would be the amount that we'd pay for the lease
Yes,
to cover
within the
that?
context of our lease payment. Yep.
But in the end, we'd hold nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
we would not own a building or have right to the building beyond the term of the
That's true.
lease at the end of the lease
Yep.
period.
You have an estimate on the value of that building,
On the value of the school,
of the building, current building?
well, that's not something we looked into.
Replacement value, if the ISIS report's correct,
Yeah, that's 3.9 in terms of replacement. That's kind of replacement cost. If you were to take all those elements and put them together and say, how much would it cost if we replaced everything that we're looking at? So that could be significant. Getting to the issue of, do we own anything? And I guess that the advantage of doing a very long-term lease is that we act like an owner and we operate like an owner, but our payment's really low. And if we get a 40-year term on that with a low lease payment, and with no capital cost, we're really just paying for the maintenance and upkeep and the utilities, then that could be a significant savings to the city.
what is the expected life cycle of the building?
The building?
Well, yeah.
Probably at least 50 years.
Did ISIS, did they make a mistake on their figures, or?
They did. I'll get to that right at the end. And I'll kind of do a little bit of a feedback on what that means to the numbers that we provided last week. New markets. There may be some questions as to whether the financing that we're anticipating being a benefit to the community center to help drive down the capital cost. The New Markets provides equity, which is money that's invested that doesn't need to be paid back. But that doesn't come to the city. That goes to the school district. So the school district would purchase the construction of the building, and they only are the ones that can use it. So we couldn't get access to that money to come and renovate our existing Golden Hours Center. So that, just in case someone was wondering, does that money transfer from one facility to another? It does not. It's important to know that it's a federal program, and the school and the community center form what they determine to be an eligible project. And the priority element of that project is the community center in terms of what the funders look at. The supporting elements to that are the community partnerships, including the seniors, the school, the recreation programs, and then, of course, the community element that the city's trying to do in terms of revitalizing the surrounding neighborhood. Those are supporting elements. It's important to remember that you can't remove supporting elements or the thing starts to kind of topple over. But if you remove the critical element, they wouldn't even look at it. So just kind of in terms of priority.
But the critical element for the community center is the Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club is
Not the
the kind of the
senior
hook.
center.
Yeah. And the senior center at this point is seen as a supporting element. When we met with the U.S. Bank representative, who's the entity that's looking at doing the big funding element, and they're going out finding the sub-funders. She indicated her support for the project and was very supportive, and indicated that the reasons for their support were that there were so many players, and it was such a community effort at trying to do this project. Just a school, well, that's nice, but they look at it because it's got the community support and all these other elements involved. They wanted ready-to-go projects, and so that's why this project was, scored well, because we assumed that the project would be funded and acted like it would be funded, and teed it up, bought the land, got the homes down, and got the designs ready to go, and the builders ready to bid the project. So that all played into the New Markets, the positive aspect of them funding the project. Let's see. Input from the seniors. There have been quite a bit of input received over the past few months. And we do acknowledge that there's been a relatively short period of time to try and get as much input as we could. As I said, we started discussing in November and had to go through a number of iterations back and forth with the school district and the architect to try and get a design that we thought might incorporate the needs and the space and programming and all. And so as soon as we got that, we tried to get it out to the seniors. And so through the couple of meetings we've had and the interactions that they've had at the senior center and the flyers and the handouts and the lists of issues and things that we've tried to get back and forth, we've gotten a lot of input and tried to answer those questions as well. Community building is kind of an important thing to bring up. Community building aspect's an aspect that's in addition to the cost savings that we're trying to promote in terms of the administration's look at the alternatives. We're saying, does it pencil? Does it look like it might be a good idea financially? At the same time, we don't want to forget the fact that we're looking at, the school itself is a generational change in this neighborhood, and the opportunity for us to participate in that project and to support it has merit, and we're trying to find ways to involve ourselves in that. We've talked about things such as the synergy of the housing development that goes on in the neighborhood, the park, the recreation aspects, not only in the park but in the facility itself, and on down to the revitalization on Washington Boulevard. And again, as I mentioned, I'm just kind of looking through my notes to make sure I get a lot of information on the record. But the school, again, is a nucleus for revitalization in that neighborhood. Okay. The partnerships, again, kind of get at the community building aspect, but we're trying to build the ongoing partnership with the school district, and this, of course, entering into a lease and trying to facilitate the success of that project through the city's involvement and investment solidifies that partnership as well. And of course, Boys and Girls Club, creating a venue for them. They're looking at establishing their offices in that on the second floor alongside the program elements. Future of senior programming, we acknowledge that that's an evolving question. So the current facility has potential for multiple uses. It has a future. It has, issues and options and some positive sides as well. We're looking at the community center. It has multiple use rooms that are being programmed, and the architect's trying to take into account the flexibility and design for flexible use into the future, those kind of things. It has the one option, kind of a big plus for the community center is that it has a lot more access to physical activity and fitness. The gym is a lot bigger. The fitness center is a lot bigger that's being built into it, and the walking track and the park space. And so a lot more kind of potential focus on fitness if that's something that the council feels is important.
One of the concerns of the seniors in the center is that they're not confident that the new facility would provide their programs. And I was over there today, and I looked at their silversmith and where they make the jewelry and that, and that's more like a stationary room.
Sure.
And so they have a lot of participation in that, but that's their concern, is that the programs would not adhere to the needs of the seniors. How do we address that?
Well, and that was one of the first critical points that we discussed in terms of designing spaces and how big are they and how are they located and all that. And so that, that may be a perception, but that's literally the target that the architect tried to reach. And so, there may be some things that don't translate over 100%. And so there's kind of a give and take in terms of how the balancing act. Is it a deal killer if they can't do a specific thing? It might be, but they're trying to take into account everything they can and try and get as many of the functions to apply there. And then also look into the future and say what's the future for seniors? And we're thinking less on the computer room, because that's going to be people like me with an iPad sitting on a couch or talking, whatever. It's different in terms of the technology use into the future, and maybe more on the fitness side, and multiple uses for rooms and various, so groups can meet in different rooms and not have a dedicated space for our use. They're trying to accommodate that, but in terms of one-for-one replacement, you'd have to build an identical facility to get that. But we're not sure how all of the unit uses will fit over, but there's targeted space for every one of those uses.
Ward, and I appreciate you mentioning this. Some of the information that Ms. Eller-Smith sent to us, from the National Council on Aging especially, talks about this and talks about the need to be constantly reinventing and being flexible. Like you mentioned, computer, when this facility was built, it wasn't intended to have computer rooms in some of the facilities that are being used today. And even 10 years from now, it's going to be much different than it is today. Down in Daybreak, they have a wonderful 55 and over housing development that's geared, and they have a recreation center and other things that are really geared to this type of population, but making it very flexible so that they can change and alter things according to what the needs of the community are. And that's what I really foresee this, our baby boomers and others, they're going to be coming in and saying, we want more recreation, we want more wellness, we want more nutrition, things that are going to help them to extend their lifestyle and their lives. Yeah. But I've talked to other people in the community, and I talked to a friend yesterday and another friend that lives out in Riverdale, and what they're starting to envision is, a senior recreation center and senior housing and other things that you live in that community, and then there's another part of the community that has maybe assisted living, and then another part of the community that you migrate to and you start having Alzheimer's and other things. So you continue to live within your community and among your friends, but it's all still in your community.
That's exactly right.
This recreation center that we're, for Golden Hours, it'd be great if we, in the future work with a developer who develops a housing unit that's 55 and over, and we have another recreation center, but it's part of that community of homes.
Yeah.
It's just a vision.
Sure. And that's the flexibility that you mentioned in terms of how the needs of seniors can be met into the future. And we don't foresee that we can answer all those questions now, but as I mentioned earlier in some of the work sessions, that we see this as an opportunity to embark on a track that gives us options for things into the future. And obviously we lock down the option of, if we pick this one, log down the option of staying in the existing Golden Hours Center, theoretically. And so, that option's down, but other options open up.
And we named ours Golden Hours, and in one of the articles it mentions, avoiding senior care center and senior as a word. And Daybreak uses Garden Park. Others are starting to utilize names that don't set this as a negative tone, but something real positive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Actually, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just have one quick question. Right now, I believe it's Bob Geyer. He's the director of the Golden Hours. And with the change, it's still the intent he would still be the director. Would we still keep him as the director, right? That wouldn't change.
Yep. Operation would be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ward, can you, sorry.
I was just going to throw out one thought that If this happens to come to be, maybe one of the things is to have the people that use it name it,
Oh, yeah.
some engagement and.
Yeah, I haven't seen any gold since I reached that age.
I have a couple of questions, and it has to do with the deferred maintenance. Obviously, there's a lot of deferred maintenance, like $1.8 million, and you've spread it over from year to year to year,
Yep.
making it somewhat consistent from year to year to year, correct? But is that necessarily what's going to happen? I mean, are we going to need $250,000 the first year and $80,000 the next year and $400,000?
That's exactly right. And if you look at the facility report, it shows, I don't have my facility report here, but
Follow-up part of that, just so you, the reason I'm getting that is that you've also estimated $33,000. Now, is that a consistent amount then?
say it again.
Will that be a consistent amount over the 10-year period or the 20-year period?
In regards to our payment,
For the
if
debt
we
service.
chose a lease, yes, it would be a static payment.
So we'd be able to budget for that
Yeah.
more appropriately?
Yes, yes. And the challenge, and you hit it right on the head, the challenge is with the ISIS report, if we followed that or tried to get it following that, we'd have peaks and valleys. And some years would be very substantial. So, and I just did it for analysis sake, if what would the average be on an annual basis. So we'd probably, as we go into the future, be looking at some maybe leaner years and some years that would have significant hits.
And do you think that would start this year then, of the deferred, or the deferred maintenance?
Well, we're looking at, just for argument's sake, in the not the coming budget, but the following year. Sure. That kind of leads me to maybe a quick discussion on the ISIS report. They miscalculated the square footage, and so we asked them to run the numbers again. And the $2.5 million in total costs that we looked at before have now dropped to 1.8. And so I did another analysis to see what the impact would be on the comparison between staying at Golden Hours versus going to the new center. And staying at Golden Hours, I'm looking at about $225,000 a year if we followed the ISIS recommendations and did the work over a 10-year period. If it were possible to extend that over to a 20-year period, which we don't know if those things will last or not. But if, just to try and, for argument's sake, go twice that long, we'd be down to about $165,000. By comparison, the new center would be $184,000. So it looks a little cheaper to stay if you can make your costs spread out over a 20-year period.
And in the end, we'd still own that building that had been renovated.
Yeah, you would. But the other important thing to note is that the debt service that we're planning that gets us to the $184,000 is as if we had borrowed $2 million to kind of facilitate this thing. And so $2 million is far and above the estimate of what we need. In fact, the gap is estimated at 1.6. So, the debt service is hopefully going to be a lot less than that. So we tried to give the high estimate on the new center at 184, but it's likely to be quite a bit less. So hopefully I'm not confusing the issue, but if the new center if the payment on the new center were equal to the longest estimate on the Golden Hours Center, and it became $165,000, how much could we finance with that? And the number there is $1.7 million. So we could finance, instead of $2 million, $1.7, but the estimated amount that we need is still only $1.6. So in effect, it would still be cheaper to go to the new center if you used these estimates. And then the final sort of argument is that there's a fundraising effort underway, and our goal is to not pay anything on debt service. So our goal is to have a payment of $50,000 a year, not $180,000. That's the goal. And the likelihood is that a good portion of that, maybe not all of it, but a significant portion may be raised through donations, so that the balancing act actually goes back to the new center in terms of it being cheaper.
But
So
we
I
could
hope
also
didn't.
undertake a fundraising effort to put renovations in the
Absolutely.
existing Golden Hour
Sure.
Center.
There is that argument. There is, however, to answer that, right now we have the motivation, or the momentum for the current center. The new markets is, if that comes, it's a slam dunk, and it's a huge investment. It's, how many did we say? $7 million or something that comes to the school. And most of the community center gets built with that. And then there's the momentum for getting the rest, because there's a partnership built. The school district, the Boys and Girls Club, the ramp, and the city, and everyone that's kind of aiming at this. There's already kind of an engine going for the fundraising. So there may be that as a positive aspect.
So are the donations we're expecting to come from ramp funds or largely ramp funds?
No.
With a mixture of private donors or?
Yeah, there's a number of big donors they're going to, $1 million donors. So we're expecting that there may
That
be a
have
few.
committed for the senior center or that have committed for the Boys and Girls Club?
Community center.
Because-
Not committed yet, but I mean, that are on the plan and that are being targeted. and
But
communicated.
actually, I wanted to clarify, or understand something a little bit better about the donations. So there's wording that talks about a $2 million gap, but
Mm-hmm.
sort of there's an assumption that part of that has already been committed.
Yes.
So there's like 1.6 million. So, I mean, if no one else donated anything and we were to go forward with this, would we be committed to the $2 million level or the 1.6?
1.6.
Okay.
The other thing that I feel like I need to make sure that the record shows is that we're looking at the senior center now. Our point of discussion is, should we enter into a discussion with the school district regarding an operational agreement to move the Golden Hour Center there? But the big picture is that the city gets to be involved in a community center, and that the community center is bigger than the senior center, and it's part of that's where the fundraising is going. That's where the tax credits are going, and that kind of thing. So to insulate off and say we're only doing just the senior, it's not really that. Although there is a decision point on that, but there's the bigger aspect as well that the city is becoming involved in.
What happens if this Golden Hour Center does not go into that area? Then what happens to that area?
The footprint shrinks, goes back to an original concept plan, and they kind of redraw, and there's less square footage. And
What happens to the $400,000 that's already been arranged for that?
For the
Yeah, between the $2 million and the $1.6 million that you said we've already gotten.
Oh, well, there's actually, there's $1.2 million already committed.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that'll still go to the same,
Goes into
that
the
project, okay.
facility. Although, I guess the ramp group has committed $200,000, but that was because I was, in part because I was there to kind of argue the city's position that we're a partner and we're trying to be a player and that we're working towards the city's involvement in this community center as well. So not that it was guaranteed, it's just that we're selling it as if we're trying to do that.
And just to clarify one point, so even if the senior center went away, we would still be involved with the community center with programming in the evenings, whatever, rec programs?
Potentially the recreation programs, because we always have an arrangement with the schools. Sure.
The new market tax credits the key point is the Boys and Girls Club aspect of it. Is that right?
Well,
That's what they're looking
it's
for.
kind of like, it's a critical thing, and if it wasn't there, then they probably wouldn't want to look at the project. At least that's what the consultant on the funding side said, that it's really a draw. That kind of gets their attention. But the community aspect of it is the supporting aspect. And so if you remove the supporting aspect, it weakens the argument as well. So it's hard to say that it's okay. You know, it may weaken it. We don't know exactly what they'd say or how they'd feel about it, but we do know that they expressed a lot of excitement and enthusiasm about the city's involvement and the rest of the community's involvement.
Let me just add to that. The Boys and Girls Club kind of gets us into the realm of being considered for new market tax credit. But we're competing with a lot of other requests for new market tax credits. So the synergy of having the community, the city, and the school district trying to partner together actually moves us up in the scoring and makes us more appealing to, so that these new tax market credit, these new
Market
so that
tax
they'll be,
credits.
yes, thank you, so that they'll be picked up, that they'll be bought, and that's what we want to have happen. So to underscore what he's trying to say is, yeah, the Boys and Girls Club got us into the mix, but now what we've tried to package and combine actually makes us a very strong package that is appealing.
Sure, and that package has already been floated and sold, and so it looks like the U.S. Bank has kind of got their hands on it, and they're trying to go out and get partners for it. So if we take that package back and say, oh, let us tweak that, it might, you know, we're just saying, our argument is let's not do that. Let's just kind of keep moving forward like we've aimed at.
But it
Although
was
there are
sold before we've
considerations.
approved anything.
Exactly, and
that's-
you have to sell the idea.
I understand that, but it's been kind of pushed without any sort of official decision being made and without much consideration being put into, is it a compatible move for the senior center to go into the community center?
Well, and the administration's view is that we've tried to get as good an answer as we could, and we've kind of made the call in terms of what we wanted to push. And you have to float something to see how it goes. So that's, we had to make the call.
So if we have the
It's all timing.
community center and the Golden Hour built on right with the D school, what would our amount be from each year from the budget to pay for the expense of the Golden Hour Center in this?
Well,
What would that come?
the estimate
what-
on utilities and maintenance comes to about just over $50,000.
So we'd have 50,000 out of our budget each year for that facility.
And currently, we're spending about $70,000 for those same elements.
In a larger building?
Well, I guess we could argue that the dedicated space is smaller, but the overall available space is almost twice as big.
But it's not dedicated to just the senior center, and it would have to be a shared use agreement,
Sure.
which is different than what they have right now.
Well, and the element that we're trying to get into the agreement, and obviously it's a deal killer for us in the administration, is that the gym would be the Golden Hours gym while Golden Hours operates. You know what I mean? They would have, it would be their gym. They wouldn't have kids from the school coming in and saying, hey, it's our turn and get out. It would be program time. So in our view, the gym space is their space.
So is the gym at Golden Hours currently being used during the evening?
There are times when it is. Yep.
As far as the partnership with the school, if you could talk about, you know, if this doesn't go, does that hurt our relationship with the school district or not? And I still have some concern about our agreement, you know, since this is moving so fast. You know, maybe we don't know what we don't know yet, and so our agreement might be lacking in some area. And so potentially could cause our relationship with them to sour because our agreement wasn't good. So if you could address those. Maybe that's just crystal ball stuff. I don't know if there's anything you could say, but.
Sure. Well, you know, this exercise that we've gone through with the school district to try and identify a site for them, bring them a funding mechanism, agree to help and actually help with the acquisition has been a big kind of a big move for the city and something we haven't done before. And so it's built a lot of goodwill and a great relationship that we've got so far. And so, it's not that I don't believe the council voted not to support the resolution, that it would kill our relationship, but there is momentum towards trying to do something, and we've been working together on this for the past 6 months or so on just this element. And they've been patient, trying to work with us and have their architect design things, and it's been at their expense. And so they're just trying to help, and we're trying to help. So yeah, I could see there being a bit of a concern if we didn't follow through on something we aimed at trying to do. Not that it was a guarantee anyway, but
So do you see a opportunity for naming this facility as part of our agreement with, does it need to be in the agreement, or do we just kind of work up a
Naming
program?
the overall community
facility,
center?
yeah, letting the seniors, the users name
I
the
think it'll be
facility?
more from the fundraising that the naming rights will go. As they fundraise money, it'll determine, I think, naming rights, and there'll be different things that'll be named. I mean, the gym will probably be named, and the community center itself might have a name, but I think that we'll put some, with the school district, some dollar values to be able to have naming rights.
Well, like Councilmember Garner said, that, names they mean a little something, and so it'd be really nice to not just be somebody's name, if as long as it was something.
Well, I mean, it could be, what were some of the names you had?
Garden Park.
I mean, it could be the Bill Cook Garden Park. I mean, if he made a big enough contribution, we'd put his name on there. Get some of that, Idaho money down here. One other thing that you did ask that he didn't really answer totally is we've already, the mayor and I have already sat down and talked with the superintendent about some of the operating rules, and we have some pretty good assurances from him that he has no intention of not being able to tie things down into an agreement. He understands the need to do that, and we've talked about the need for Golden Hours to have some specific timelines and whatnot. The other thing to remember is that gym will not be used every night for basketball. We don't have the support staff to run basketball every night. I mean, you might see basketball there one night a week, but you're not going to see basketball there every night. So there are other programming. Boys and Girls Clubs goes home 6 o'clock.
6:30.
6 o'clock. So, I mean, there are other opportunities to program things in the evenings and whatnot.
So getting back to the resolution, the resolution really is as a mechanism for the council and the administration or the mayor to agree that the mayor will negotiate these points. So we're not necessarily agreeing to all the points in the resolution itself, but that we have, kind of the council trusts the mayor to move forward, and that we will do our best to try and get something that meets the needs and will be sustainable.
That was one of the concerns of the seniors there, is that they would have the kids coming in, and I think we can alleviate that situation with the agreement. The agreement has to be, point that out, that the programming is very important to the seniors. As Councilman Garner said, that flexibility is the essence, and I think this new center has some flexibility to it. There needs to be some modifications. For an example, the walking track could be a item for the seniors to participate in, and that gives it some flexibility. But as I looked at the classrooms, I thought to myself, gosh, if we could divide some way, or create some way where we could divide those classrooms in half, where 2 units could use it. I know you'd have to look at reconfiguring the entrance to those rooms, but there are 2 rooms, the computer and the classroom, that could be divided, and also the physical education or the weight room could be divided in half to have 2 programs going at the same time. And I
Yeah,
think
the
that
architects
adds to
talked
the
about the curtains
flexibility.
and various things that
Yeah,
we can do.
but you'd have to figure out some way to have an entrance to that if you drew it across there. So, but I think that could be worked out where flexibility with the program of the seniors is very necessary for us at this particular element.
Well, and I don't know that curtains are going to be the solution, dividing a room into two and putting curtains. I don't know if you've ever worked with senior population. I have. I was a recreational therapist in a nursing home for many years, and you have a lot of people who are hard of hearing, and when you have background noise, it's very hard for them to hear simple conversations. And so I think extra care has to be put into considerations like that, where you can't just slap a dividing curtain up like what a lot of rooms have because of the sound issues.
Yeah, but it gives
and
you
you
the-
can't put the billiard room.
It gives you the
in-
flexibility of that room to divide it into 2 units instead of just
But it would
having
make
one.
it so it wouldn't serve either purpose well.
Well, I think it would. I think it would be.
How do you address the noise issue then?
Well, I believe that there may be some noise situations there, but I think we can work those out.
Well, and it's the same with trying to cram the billiard tables into the lounge. Those are just, no matter what you do, those are not compatible uses. You have people who want to have quiet conversations with their friends and have knitting groups and things like that. You can't put billiard tables in that space and have it function well for either use. And I think there are a lot of instances with the proposed senior center where we're trying to shoehorn things in, and it's far from ideal for any of the proposed uses.
But I think it'll still give you the flexibility that the unit could use.
Yeah, these are all balancing acts that obviously you have to decide how the programming can be modified if you choose to go there. What do you do? It's not an identical space. And so we're not selling it that way. We're just saying that if you go there, that might be an opportunity to save money, to have a different future, and accommodate many of the needs. Hopefully all of them, but many of them. So some programming changes probably would have to be made as well.
Any more questions for Mr. Ogden?
Kind of just along those same lines, talk about the social hall and if the gathering happens to be bigger than the allotted room, then what
Yeah,
happens?
Sure. And that's obviously something that came up initially with Mr. Geyer, and that was one of his initial first concerns. And so it elevates to, it kind of drives to the question of how do we guarantee that we can have the gym when we need it? And so it's a critical element. In our mind, in the administration, if we didn't have in our agreement with the school district the ability to program the gym and say it's ours when it's ours, then we wouldn't be arguing that we should do this. To us, we wouldn't even be bringing it to you. So the gym is for the seniors when they need it. And so they have, I think, 15 things a year that they do, events that are larger than would probably fit into the social hall. And so they would then move into the gym and use that space.
And I don't know if you've drilled down enough to have thought of this part, but so are they the same tables that they then have to transport into the gym, or is
They
there
do.
separate ones?
They're on wheeled
Wheels?
carts. Yeah.
Is there a problem? Because I noticed the kitchen is quite a distance from the gymnasium, where today...
From the gym?
Uh-huh.
But right now, there's a window
There's a
that
window that goes into
opens
there.
up into the multipurpose room.
Right, yeah.
Is that a problem that you see?
That's something that we've talked about, with the director, and it's something they'd have to work with. On a routine basis, most of their meals would be in the social hall, which is directly accessible to the kitchen. So, and another element was how far away is the patio space, and literally the patio space is about the same distance from the kitchen in either facility. So that's not and it's about the same size. So the patio's kind of equivalent.
Anything else for Mr. Ogden? Okay, thank you. This was continued from last week, and we felt like that it was probably important that we continue the public input as well. And so we would invite your new and fresh comments. If we could avoid hearing a rerun of everything from last week, because we still remember all those things and have spent the week weighing those things. But if you would like to come and voice your comments, please come to the podium and give us your name and address and limit those comments to 3 minutes.
I am Don King. I live at 144 East Dan Street, Westmont Property Apartments. I've been here for your last meeting, and I listened to Mr. Ogden and his ideas. And there's a few questions I have. He says that on one hand, that the Golden Hour Center has a lot still as far as possibly doing different things in there, but yet he's indicating that on the other hand, he would prefer to be with the D school. Well, anyway, there's a few things I was writing about it, and okay, my personal opinion of this is the Golden Hour Center is in the right spot of where it should be, because it's closer to the churches, it's closer to the hospitals if there's an emergency. There's a lot of benefits to it still where it's sitting, and yes, it might need a lot of work. I don't disagree with that in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Also, as far as the situation of the buses, which is still being determined on the UTA situation, and what the senior citizens might be riding them buses, and then the change of routes and what that would cost UTA and us as well. Okay. My personal opinion is, that we should see what we could actually do with the senior citizen or the Golden Hour citizen, and possibly not work on it and maybe build it up to be a better place. Okay, the reason I'm doing this is because when you stop and figure that UTA's got to change their routes, they're going to have to move benches, they're going to have to do this, they're going to have to do that, time consuming, and everything else that, that could cost us more in the long run also. And so therefore I prefer to leave the Golden Hour Center where it's at and work on it. And even if they have to close it down a little bit of a section at a time, it still could be a benefit. At least that's my personal opinion.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, wonderful council members. How are you this evening? My name is James Carroll, of course. Live at 2634 Quincy, apartment 1 in Ogden. I think about the times that I passed by the Golden Hours. Okay, I'm not old yet. I got a few good years on me. And once I started getting near my late 60s, I kind of changed my mind. So I went in there one day and I saw what a friendly place it was. I I had a little heart problem, so I was working with my therapist. Well, you need to exercise, Mr. Carroll. Do you know of a good place you could go? So I checked in with the Golden Hours. And the therapy I get, the exercise I get from the weight room is keeping me a vital person for the community, which I'd like to be, because I'm not the kind of person that likes to sit down and twiddle my life away with nothing to do. I think the Golden Hours is a great place for the senior citizen center that attends there. I look at the building, and I agree with what I've heard, that that building has been sitting there for many, many years. It served a lot of senior citizens. It's done a lot of good for the community. But there's like an old shoe. So no matter, you got to kick that old shoe off and just push it aside because it's wore out completely. Well, the building itself is substantially good, but who knows, from several months down the road to a year now, how much more money it's going to cost to fix that building up than it is to just relocate it to a finer area. And I think the community center, it sounds like it's going to be wonderful to me. I think of all the things that can happen there, that can make it happen, and I think of all the money, revenue, anything like that, that it's going to bring the city of Ogden. It might even bring more people in Ogden, and that we've counted on in the past. I understand that the building itself, at one time, it was the only center they had. They had, the clientele was more than it is now. But I think that by building a better center, building a better senior center within this public building that's going to be open to the public, schools and everything like that, is the best way to go. And that's looking forward to the future. Let's forget about the past and let's think about the future.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
I'm Lynn Dooley. I live at 1021 North, 925 East, Ogden. I'm on the north end of town. There was a couple concerns I heard today and a couple things that we checked on. One of the girls called the school, and they do plan on using this gym too. So where does that leave us? The other one is we are expanding and expanding. We don't know how big we're going to get. Right now, this size really does bother us because there isn't room for expansion. And we don't want to be like the fire department and the police department move into a building that's already too small when they moved in. Maybe this is not the right time for us to move. We don't know where we're going yet, but we're going to go to a smaller building with more people. So are we really looking at what we need, where we're going? What are our options? We're looking at starting a new class at night for cooking because everybody's into the cooking channel. We're also looking at, we need more space for the gym part, yes. Not necessarily basketball, though that would be nice for a lot of them, but the exercise equipment needs more space. And they'll get it, but if you take it away for classrooms, and that's what our problem is now because we've got the petitions going up and we cannot hear anything in the classroom because of what's going on next door. I think you should have more of an input with everyone as to what are the exact needs instead of jumping on board and getting something that's going to be not to your needs in 5 years, and we're going to be locked in for 15 to 20. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, you want to hear opinions that are different and fresh. So I've got quite a few. After that meeting that we attended, I did my own research and others with me.
Oh, name and address,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Virginia Hernandez Reza. Did you want my address? My address, do you want it?
Yes, please.
It's not important. Okay, it's 2427 Jefferson. Okay. So we because I am very connected with the superintendent, the district, the people I interact with, and also the school board. So I knew what areas to go to ask about what Mr. Ward has. Is that his last name? Okay.
Well, it's his first name, but.
It's Ogden. Anyway, so we did talk to the people at the top, and they had said that they value their partnership with the Ogden City Council people. But they said, and I said, is it necessary if Golden Hour does not get in there, would it cause any conflict? And he said, no. He says, I think they're the bigger people with this school and that, because it's their school. He says, no. He says, if we don't come up with, we don't get the golden hour, then, there's other ways that we will get that need met. I says, are they aware of that, the community development? He says, they should be. Okay, that's one thing, is that they said they do value the partnership with the city council. And I said, good. The other thing he mentioned, he said that the facility, even now, it's used in the evening, not just once a week. It's used a lot for different activities. I go there a lot in the evening to do my computer work exercises. There's always people there. If you move there to this community center, again, there's going to be a lot of conflict for us. Another thing that the Ogden City spokesperson said to me, he says, our first priority, what is it? Priority. He says, naturally, it's going to be our needs, our kids, our whatever we need. We're going to be first. And then we will look at, basically, a golden hour will be the last on the line. Because you're all talking now about the club, Boys and Girls Club? They would be the second. Now, what surprises me here with my city council people, that some I've known for years, is that you really don't have an idea what's went in the making with this. I mean, you're asking these questions, and it surprises me, like basic questions that you would think you would know to do your own research, do your own study for us, the people. One more thing. We did get a hold of Bob. I recommend that he don't be there no longer. And also him, but I'll get a hold of all of you about that. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
Hi, Travis Pate, 2546 Jefferson. As far as new ideas, I think I came up with new market tax credits, not a guaranteed thing, so it's not necessarily the guaranteed funding. It could be the following year. And I look back from that park space when I was a child. Concerts in the parks were there. There was a pretty large patio right off the adjacent aspect, and so I think the county should possibly be involved in saying, okay, how much space is possibly available at the library for shifting or even just like absorbing transition costs. So should the Golden Hours be rebuilt on site even? Stop and Shop was closed for a total of 1 day when they moved from their 12th Street store to the store that was on Washington Boulevard next to Shopco. And they built it on site, and then they just removed it. So there was minimal cost of delay of any of those types of things for programming. And also the aspect of the building. The superintendent has the final say on the size and structure of the building. Odyssey Elementary was scheduled to have an observatory. Boom, taken off because of the budget issues. It didn't even have to go back to the board. Ogden High's gymnasium was actually supposed to be able to seat the student body. It doesn't. So there's nothing in this guarantee and proposal that says this building is going to be X number of square feet. We're buying into it, and also the debt service, which said if we're going saying $50,000 a year, and it changed from $70,000, but it's $50,000 plus the possible debt service of the $1.6 million. As far as community support, phenomenal community support, $162,000 in infrastructure just for Madison Avenue alone. for us to close that and revamp that, and the proposal that's been given for us to donate a $35,000 piece of property. No, it's over $85,000 in current market value that we would give to the school district for parking, plus the cost, the initial cost of the demolition of that property. So there's tremendous community support already from the city. So Golden Hours is not the end-all, see-all. And I was at the work session when the two individuals from the new market tax credits were here, and they said, what about Golden Hours being there? It's not a big deal, we don't care. I was in the work session, it was just right here in the other room. So the new market tax people said they don't care, and yet here now all of a sudden they care again? Wait a minute, there's conflicting stories. The peep from the horse's mouth, or kind of the telephone around and come back and now they care. So I think those are the types of things. We are invested. It's a tremendous partnership that's already happened. I just don't feel that now is the time for Golden Hours. I think an alternative analysis aspect, there's other tenants and other spaces that it could be, even if it's Central Corridor, that would be much better suited to meet the community needs. And I think, again, as I said, actually premature, and it takes us away from the culture aspects. It takes them how far away from the amphitheater, takes them how far away from the library, takes them how far away from the Ogden Symphony Ballet Association, the Ogden Opera Guild, the Junior League of Ogden's Oasis Community Garden. So there's too much cultural infrastructure to move it from the site.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, back to the council for discussion and your thoughts. There's no thoughts.
A lot of them.
Okay.
Thoughts?
When I was over there today, I asked the question, how many of the participants use UTA bus routes? And they said, not very many. Most of them come either with partners in cars or drive their own car. That's how they get to the Golden Hour Center. So.
I guess I would just say that this is not one of those easy decisions to make. There are good arguments on staying at the current site, and there are equally good arguments moving. I think we've all had thought a lot about it, and if there's no further discussion, I would go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the new D School and Community Center project.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to adopt the joint resolution from Vice Chair Gochner, seconded by Councilmember Blair, and this is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair?
Aye.
Councilmember Garner?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
No.
Vice Chair Gochner?
Aye.
Chair Heyer?
Aye.
I'll give the reason for my no vote. I think moving the senior center away from a major transit line, even though maybe not a lot of people now use transit to get there, there is a proposed streetcar alignment that would go right by Golden Hour Center. It is in an area where there are a lot of things that would meet the everyday needs of senior citizens. It's adjacent to senior housing. The new spot next to D School doesn't really have any of that. And I don't think we can expect UTA to change their transit routes just to service that one place. I think that, I would love to give the seniors a new building if we had all the funds in the world to do that and to put some thought into it as far as, what would they like to see in there and what sort of needs will we have for the future. And I think we need to take a hard look at that. Our senior population is only going to increase. And I don't believe this building really serves the purpose well. So that's the reason for my no vote.
Thank you.
And I also want to comment. I want to second what Councilmember Gochner said in that this is not an easy decision, but I did listen to everybody, and I have studied these issues. I think we need to look at several things that are with this plan. I do think it's an opportunity for the city to get a community center and have the senior citizens participate with this community center and make it something that is very worthwhile for all of our citizens. And I also listened to James and what he said, and I've listened to Virginia and others. And yes, this may be moving away from some of the transportation, but also I think there are opportunities for us to work with our senior citizens and make this building something that is very useful for them. I also want to challenge the city to work with the architects to address an issue that Mr. Pate brought up, and that is the entrance on the north side. I really feel strongly that in other parts of the drawings, we have that it's covered exterior access into different locations. And I feel that, we could probably work with them to have a covered access, even if it's out clear to the parking lot, to have access right up to the building so that they can be dropped off and have covered access right into their center and participate in the activities and mitigate that risk of slipping during the winter months. And but I do think that this building that is there currently is 46 years old. Average lifespan's about 50 years. So to redo this, we would have to rebuild the entire building. And that was mentioned, but I think there's an opportunity to do this. And I also, as I mentioned earlier, think there's opportunity to work with private groups to have other care and opportunities for citizens throughout the community.
Thank you.
I went over there this afternoon, and I talked to a couple that was playing table tennis, and the gentleman says, seniors are changing, and I think that's the concept that we're looking at. The seniors, when my parents were seniors, the seniors today are different. So I look at the programs for the senior citizens, and we have to be flexible. We have to be flexible enough to provide the needs and the purpose for the seniors. And Ward, that was one of the really concerns of the seniors. They want to make sure that their programs are going to be adhered to, and I think we as a city need to make sure that is taken care of. They're also concerned about the kids coming in, and we have to be concerned about that. And when we work up the agreement, those elements have to be part of our program. And it's difficult. It was extremely difficult decision to come to, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to provide service to our seniors for the next 50 years. And we'll have not only a senior center, but we'll have a community center. And I think that's a big plus on that aspect there. But there are aspects that the city and the council needs to continue to move forward. And I believe that's what we did tonight was correct.
Thank you.
I'd like to say thanks for the public input. That's been very enlightening for me. And I'd also challenge us to make sure that whatever use that is currently being used for the golden hours and what the future use is going to be, to make sure that we think about that, what we're going to do with that space. I just want to challenge us to make sure that we don't let it sit there. Maybe use the Trolley District Community Council as help.
I thought long and hard about this and talked to many people that are seniors. I agree with many of the things that Councilmember Wicks said in her reasons that she voted against this. But I saw the changing of the activities that our seniors do, and the desire to be more active and to be more vibrant into the senior years and getting more exercise and things of that nature, and seeing that the facility that we currently have that's 40 plus years old maybe is becoming obsolete, just to some extent at least, and saw this as a great opportunity to transition to whatever is coming. And I thought it would be irresponsible to dump a lot more money into a building that's failing, and this was a good opportunity. I thought that was the reason that I voted for it, but it certainly was not an easy decision, and I think that it will be our responsibility moving forward to continue to reinvent what we're providing for our senior population, especially since most of us aren't that far away from needing it. So anyway, that was the thoughts that went through my mind. We're now to public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name and address clearly for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
And Travis Pete, I'd like actually to congratulate the administration and council with regards to this is what the process is. This is it. The hard work, those types of things. I actually heard a seminar a long time ago said, what's the key success for having a successful business? And one commenter said, an exit strategy. And the guy said, well, no, because it wasn't the answer he was looking for. And he paused and looked back to the individual and said, yes. Yeah. I built some XYZ amount of money in the .com, and had I had an exit strategy, which I was offered to sell it, I wouldn't have lost my shirt. And so I think the same thing with possibly our attorneys as well as their attorneys is a very key exit strategy, because just as the Senior Citizen Center doesn't have room to grow, the school district now no longer has room to grow. If ATK Launch Systems and Williams International and everything else came in, we have this masterful hands-on science lab we want to give to you. They don't have any space for it. So I think the exit strategy needs to work both ways and be friendly to both. That possibly even just a 5-year agreement that says, okay, within the 5 years, just like we had with BDO, when we acquired all that property, we had the rights for XYZ amount for us to just plan an infrastructure, and they had the rights for theirs, and then after a certain period of time, then those options expired and it became part of the big 70-year agreement with Boyer Corporation. I think those are the aspects. The other aspect I appreciate being addressed is the falls and the falls risks that are faced by possibly faced by seniors. And so I actually brought a handout that has a couple little things on it from the CDC, which says injuries at home and play are not accidents; they can be prevented. And then another group by the CDC, which is STEADY. We had Stroke Awareness Month. We need STEADY Awareness Month. Stopping elderly accidents, deaths, and injuries. And this is a toolkit for health providers, but it could also work with planning our space. And then the key aspect of seniors changing, the Hearst Center for Lifelong Learning, tremendous aspect of Weber State University, could be a partner in the new school, but we've just now limited it to the community center. I would ask that the school district also consider possibly an additional partition wall inside the academic space that they're planning, that then those classrooms can be multi-used over to the community center. Because it's going to be a 2-level building, there could be access on both levels, so that some Hearst Center or anyone else that comes in says, we have these phenomenal academic spaces, we have access to those classrooms. And so to me, that's what I said. It should be a full partnership. I can congratulate the administration for the hard work, the council for their, so to speak, blood, sweat, and tears. I'm not in full agreement with the outcome at all. I still think it needs to be sharpened, but I think those aspects should be an exit strategy and access to shared academic space. The classrooms are already built. Why are we going to reinvent the wheel and cram everybody into a little social hall with a PowerPoint when we have the potentially for a tremendous aspect of academic space?
Thank you.
Virginia Hernandez Reza. Okay, I got your input from the ones that went along with it. That's the way it's going to be. That's the way it's going to be. But as an activist working with the people that most of you don't. You say you've been there to the Golden Center, you visit, whatever, and that's great. One-time visit, great. You know, that tells a whole story. But we, the people, where I think it's not this need, I'm not going to be as kind as he is. As an activist, I say the truth for the people. I'm going to say it. We're going, all right, if this goes through, what you're saying, what you're believing, and what he's saying, and we're going to be working right close with the community development, especially with Mr. Ward, because we're going to make sure we hold his feet and his department and the administration, their feet to the fire. We are tired of this population that they make all these plans that we don't know about until the last minute. And we don't get any input to you people who we vote you in. And you come here and you say, oh yeah, this is great, sounds beautiful. You don't know all what's been going on, which we do. Okay, all I'm just saying is that you put your vote there, we're going to make sure the senior people all over Ogden is going to be treated fairly and good. You voted for this, and it better darn well be a success, as you're saying, because when voting time comes, I'm telling you, you're only there because we vote you in. And it's just not the rich that vote you in. There's many, many of us that are low income, we're not noticed, but we mobilize and vote when the time is there. I'm very disappointed with the people that put input. And no, Mr. Ogden did not make those contacts, because we did follow. And Bob, with the newspapers, said to me and others that they tried to contact Mr. Ogden. They never got a return call so they could get more information out to the public. Bob, he himself, he did not answer the newspaper because they wanted to talk to them and get more input to the citizens. He never returned their call. That's what I'm saying. You go ahead, what you did, because that's just the way it is. We voted you all in. But we're going to, and we, I know you're saying, who's we? It's the people I interact with all my life, the silent majority of the community, who do use these places, and not just one time, off and on. That's what I got to say. I'm very disappointed with you who voted for it. I'm disappointed with you. You always vote for the elitist people, and I can understand that. But I'm disappointed in Doug. I'm disappointed in Bart. I'm disappointed. Who else? I'm just telling you what I know and the facts that we have and the people I interact with. I'm very disappointed in this decision, and I hope it works out well, because it's on record why you all believe that. And with Mr. Ogden, we'll have meetings with him. Thank you for your time.
Don King, 144 East Dan Street. And I agree with Virginia. Okay? The building could possibly be built, even if we have to rebuild the whole thing, cheaper than what the cost of what Mr. Ogden is quoting us. And I think we should really look into that. And actually take a good heart and look at the senior citizens and look at where they have to go and what they have to do. Not all of them take cars. There's a lot of them that still take buses. I see them every day down at the bus station. So if one senior citizen can get a car, go over there, that's fine. But how many senior citizens are not going to be able to afford a vehicle due to gas hikes, due to oil hikes, due to insurance hikes, and due to death hikes, and due to everything else that we're facing every day in life? And what about the taxes that the American public is always trying to dish out? Do you stop and think about them? Give it a good heart. Look inside your heart and look inside your mind. Do you want to go out there and pay $300,000 in taxes every year to try and finance something that's super big? Or would you like to kind of take a look at things and say, what's best for right now? I'm not going to deny that there's not going to be more. Sure there is. And if we're going to rebuild this building, we could do it big enough. There's enough park there. There's enough of the library. Like I say again, you have your churches, you have the hospitals. They're all closer. If something goes bad, they can get there easier and a lot quicker than what they could from 21st or 22nd and Jefferson. I think we ought to really take a big look at it. Because it's them right now that counts. And it's for their safety and for their health as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Anyone else? Okay, so seeing none, comments from Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. I have a couple if it'd be all right. I wanted to tell you that this afternoon I got a text from the mayor. He's at the base of Machu
Picchu.
He said it was a 45 miles of crazy mountain, bug-bitten, happily exhausted trip, but they're having a blast on their significant wedding anniversary. So just thought you'd like to know he's having a good time. A couple of comments on today. I want to say Ward has been our spokesman and he's been our project manager on this, but there's been a lot of city staff that's been involved in. One of the things we have learned through this process with the school district is that we are a little bit, we're having to learn how to collaborate. And I don't think collaboration comes naturally to two different government entities, and I think there's been a great amount of work that's gone in that. And even though it's been stated that we haven't had discussions with the superintendent, he hasn't pledged to us that this agreement will be put in place, which will guarantee the seniors their due time. I believe it will be, or we will not be in the deal. We have learned, as Ward has called around to the different entities that I've combined, that if you do not have a good agreement in place, then you might as well not get into the arrangement. And so we're very aware of that. We're working on that. A couple other things. We can't share classrooms. One of the reasons that they're building them as separate buildings is the number one complaint we have over at Odyssey right now with the Boys and Girls Club is that teachers spend a lot of money on their classrooms and they don't want other people in their classrooms. I get that. And I think when they designed this and designed the community center, they designed it specifically so that it could be separate off the school. We asked the superintendent, we said, specifically, are you intending that you'll be using the gym? And he said, no, they have their own gym in the school, which they use to, I think, lunch, and they do other activities there. And he said that will be the specific one. I don't want the kids over on the community center side during the school hours. So he's kind of made some of those pledges. We'll make sure that those are in the agreement. And those came right from him. So those have been the dialogue the mayor and I both have had with the superintendent. Two other things. It's purported that the newspaper's been calling us. I guarantee you if the newspaper wants to call, they call. I've talked to the newspaper today about another issue. I've talked to them about several. We actually have a policy amongst the administration that anyone below a director has to have approval of their director to talk to the press. And so if Bob Geyer got phone calls from the press, he would have been talking to Jay Louder for approval to be able to talk to the press. We like to control who talks to the press, and it's so that it protects our employees a little bit. But we have had no calls, and if they can't get a hold of Ward, or they can't get a hold of Jay, or they can't get a hold of somebody, they keep going up the chain. And I answer the Standard Examiner and return the calls when they come to my direction, and we haven't had any calls from the paper on this. Last thing, we are working not the last thing, but the last thing on this issue. We are currently working with UTA on the 603 route. They have come and proposed some changes, and we will sit down with them and discuss the route itself. Now, the 603 is the most frequent bus route we have in the city. And they have some proposals of a realignment that they want. We'll have some that we'll want. And I think we might be able to help each other a little bit with the bus travel right there. Last thing, very big weekend this weekend coming up. On Friday night and Saturday, we'll have loads of people coming into town for the marathon. It's always a fun Saturday morning. Come join us. I think the 5K people will be coming in around 7:15. And then, of course, the half marathon and the marathon, we estimate there'll probably be 20 to 25,000 people downtown Ogden. So it'll be a fun day. We invite all of you to come down and enjoy the event and to be able to celebrate, I think, a little nicer day than last year for the marathon. So we're excited to have that in our community and to hopefully we'll have a lot of people, spectators, come down and cheer on those runners. Thanks.
Thank you. Council members?
Joe McQueen is playing at Union Station tomorrow night at Jazz at the Station. Starts at 7 o'clock, free for everyone. So it's a chance to get out and see him. He is turning 95 this month, and I believe there will be an early birthday celebration as well.
Amazing.
He is amazing.
Yes, ma'am.
This past week, on Saturday, we went down and had a celebration at the Union Station, and it's 90 years, so it's not as old as Joe McQueen, but
Pretty close.
yeah. But it was a nice time. There's a lot of people down there, and we were able to celebrate the 90 years. And I think this Saturday is going to be 80, 85 degrees, so that's all right.
Maybe too warm.
78 with 10% chance of rain.
That's good.
I went to the Girl Scout Founders Breakfast this morning and was very inspired by two young women that were Girl Scouts. And it was just, first of all, the Girl Scouts of Utah were started in Ogden, so just an FYI. So it's fun to see that there's some really great young women coming up.
Else?
No, just thank everyone for Make a Difference efforts.
Yep. And ongoing 100 days of cleanup.
And just wishing Caitlin good luck Saturday.
Yeah.
Present us well.
The fire hydrants looks great.
Yep.
Well,
Finally found a job that Caitlin couldn't bring her pruners.
Oh, she still did.
okay. The next item on our agenda is proposed closed executive session. Mr. Williams, have you?
Yes, the agended closed session is permissible.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn
We need
to the work session. Oh, that's right, never mind.
Okay. So that is your motion?
Is that your motion? Yes. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Garner, seconded by Councilmember Blair to move into a closed executive session. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Garner.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks. Aye. Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Vice Chair Gochner.
Aye.
Chair Heyer.
Aye, that passes unanimous. We will adjourn from the other room, the city council meeting, special meeting, and there will be a work session following where we will talk about council business. Thank you for being here.